The August 2013 meeting of the Monroe County Legislature will now come to order. Will the legislators please take your seat? Will the clerk please call the roll?
President Adair.
Here.
Mr. Ansello. Here. Miss Andrews. Mr. Antelli. Mr. Barker. Mr. Broth. Miss Boyce. Dr. Carbone. Mr. Colby. Mr. Daniele. Mrs. Draw. Mr. Gamble is excused. Mr. Gamina. Mr. Haney. Mr. Hanna. Mr. Howland. Miss Kaylee. Mr. John Lightfoot. Mr. Willie Lightfoot. Mr. McCann. Mr. Michike. Mr. Morelli. Mr. Patterson. Dr. Quattro. Mr. Rocco. Mr. Tucciarello. Mrs. Valerio. Mr. Wilcox. Mr. Yolovich.
Please stay seated. At this time, I'd like to introduce Rabbi Michael Silbert of the University of Rochester Interfaith Chapel, who's been invited here tonight by legislator Joshua Barak.
The Jewish people is in the countdown towards New Year. It's certainly for me as a rabbi where my thoughts spend a lot of time right now. And while many of you may know this by its Hebrew name, Rosh Hashanah, it is also known as Yom Harat Olam, the day on which the world was created. An opportunity for creator and creation to become reacquainted, to embrace, and to reaffirm their commitment to each other. And we gather on Rosh Hashanah to do some serious work as individuals, but in the space of community. We look honestly at the year that has passed, both with gratitude for the blessings it has brought us, and also for the opportunities for growth it has shown us. And as we anticipate what the coming year could look like, we think about what changes we might need to make in our own lives so that we can play an active role in bringing even greater blessing next year, both to ourselves and to others. And as a child, I used to wonder to myself, is the one who breathed life into us, who mapped out our veins and decided where to place our synapses, our freckles, the very source of life that moves through us, is this not the one who also is concerned with the fate of the entire universe and the orbit of the planets, with the air we breathe, with keeping Everest firmly in place, and with making sure that the Erie Canal continues to trickle? Basically, as a teenager, I used to think, does he really care about me? Well, the author Saul Bellow once said, I believe in God, I just don't believe in bugging him. And for a long time, the teenager in me could really relate to that. Why should the creator of the entire universe be concerned with me? It felt like I couldn't relate to her, and she probably couldn't relate to me either. But after thinking about this for some time and growing up a little bit and entering a slightly less cynical place, it occurred to me that I'm not sure it's enough to believe in a God who doesn't believe in us and who cannot relate to us. For when we look at the book of Genesis, at the story of how humanity came to be in this world, we see that humankind was created separate from all other species as evening approached. Just as the sixth day, that allegorical sixth day, was reaching its close. And yet it's more than timing that sets us apart. We learn that other animals fly and swim and creep and slither and gallop and trot, and yet it's also more than just our 2 feet that distinguish us. In that hour, as the light was fading on the sixth day, humankind was imbued with a choice. the choice to emulate God's sense of mercy and compassion, or the option to turn towards hate and destructive behavior. God took quite a gamble with us, trusting that we would opt to follow the divine precedent of how to create balance, of how to make room for everyone, for all voices. Despite the risks, sometimes God's faith in us means trusting that people will rise to the occasion and allow God to shine through, creating the opportunity for people to learn, creating the opportunity for the holiness in others to be exposed, even for seeing the face of God in a stranger. All of us represent the potential for unlimited blessing and love, no matter how hard we may try to conceal these from others, no matter how hard we may try to conceal these from ourselves. As Rabbi Jonathan Sachs explains, by being only what I can be, I give humanity what only I can give. It is my uniqueness that allows me to contribute something unique to the universal heritage of humankind. We are gathered here in a great temple of American life, a seat of democracy where we uphold inalienable, God-given rights. And yet, your presence here is a privilege. Use your presence, use your uniqueness well in this session, use it wisely. Protect it as you would something holy. Whether it is your practice to lower your head in prayer in reverence of our Creator, or if it is your custom to lift your head up and bask in the glorious radiance of God's countenance that shines upon us all, I ask you to join with me in offering a blessing. At this complicated hour in American life, when we grapple to understand how religion and state are best separated and how county and faith are best united, I offer the words of the priestly benediction. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and keep you safe. May you always feel watched over, cared for, cherished, hugged by the everlasting arms, held by the wings of God's presence. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha. May God shine upon you with beaming face. May you know that God is always smiling at you, expecting the best, taking pleasure in what you do, taking pride in your wisdom, deriving joy from your openness to the voices of others. V'yichuneka, bestowing grace upon you, gracious words, gracious silence, and the highest grace, bringing out graciousness in others. Yisa Adonai panav elecha. May God lift up the divine countenance upon you. May God look your way when you walk into a room, especially the room of another heart, the room of those who experience needs with which we cannot even relate. May you feel acknowledged, saluted, recognized. May you acknowledge, salute, recognize. May you see the wink of the divine eye your way, calling you to connect with others, with community, and to participate in all of life. V'yasem lecha shalom. And may God instill peace in you. Not just give you, but instill peace in you. May your peace be true, established and firm. To paraphrase Gandhi, may you be the peace you wish to find. May you be the peace you wish to bring. Shalom. And thank you very much to Legislator Baruch for your very kind invitation.
Great job. Thank you. On behalf of the entire lodge, I'd like to give that certificate to you. You're welcome to stay as long as you'd like. Thank you. Legislator Cayley will now lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Legislator Cayley. pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, I'd like to welcome to our chambers tonight the supervisor from Arundequoit, Supervisor DeRizio. Nice to see you. Thank you. And it's also an honor for me tonight to inform the gallery and inform all of our legislators that may or may not know that we had an addition to our family. Mr. Riddler had a beautiful daughter, Elise, and yes, please applaud. Now, Joe, I always give this advice because I have two daughters. Right now, because she's not sleeping all night, easiest part of your life right now. Trust me. Remember, right?
Right.
Joe, congratulations. Thank you. Okay. You've received the copies of the Journal of Day 9, July 9, 2013. Without exception, that journal is going to stand approved as submitted. There's a hearing loop in place tonight for those who need assistance in hearing. Anyone requiring this assistance should inquire at the clerk's office.
If you have a cellular phone, pager, or other electronic device in your possession, we would ask that you silence them until the meeting is adjourned. And we thank you for your cooperation.
Legislators, the referrals for the next legislative cycle are in your folders at this time. At this time, I believe, there he is, yes. It's my great honor and privilege to introduce Mark Quinn, who is now going to give us the Plant of the Month.
Thank you. Good evening. The plant of the month this month is caladium, and you can see them up front here. Caladium is actually a perennial, but it's only a perennial in the tropics. It's actually grown as a annual here, but you can actually save them from year to year. They're very, very cold dependent, so as soon as it gets cold at all, they'll die. So they need temperatures of about 70 degrees to start growing. They're really a nice plant for garden edges. People tend to use them for container gardens and around edges of gardens. They've got really, really nice colors. The leaves stay colorful all summer long. So once you've got them growing, and that's usually in probably the end of May, around here, they'll give your garden great color all the way through September. About that time, you need to actually take them out, and if you want to save them year to year, they're actually grown from a tuber. And you've got to take them out and dry them out and save them like you'd save a bulb for the winter, and then put them back in the ground when the soil temperatures get up about 70 degrees. It's actually a little bit challenging to save these. Most people just buy them year in and year out, and you can buy them already started. If you want to start them, you really have to have some fairly warm temperatures. Like I say, soil temperatures of about 70, whereas grass seed will start at about 50. So it really has to be fairly warm for these plants. That being said, they're really a very nice, relatively inexpensive plant. They do very well in shade. They're not grown for the flowers at all. As a matter of fact, if you look at this one, that funny shaped thing coming up in the center is actually the flower. Usually we just pinch the flowers off of these so the leaves can, which is the most spectacular part of the plant, so the leaves have more energy. The entire plant is poisonous, so if your cat likes to eat your plants, it's probably not a great plant to have in the house, but it does make a very nice house plant. There's over 1,000 named varieties of this plant. Almost all of them are produced in a small town in Florida. Actually, Lake Placid, Florida, produces 98% of these plants, and they hold a festival kind of like our Lilac Festival, the Caladium Festival down there. Again, they're really nice plants. They're a little touchy to grow on your own year to year, but it can be done, and it's kind of a fun challenge. And the colors are really great, and they stay that color all throughout the season. A few of the plants will actually do okay in the sun, but you're best off like under trees and in dappled shade, not too much direct sunlight. Thank you.
Mark, thank you as always for coming in to introduce the plants. I just wanted you to know one thing, Mark, that I believe it's still in committee at this point, but there is a resolution and referral that says that the county legislature is here tonight demanding that there will be no more days below the temperature of 70 degrees for the rest of the year. So if anybody wants to start,
We'll see what we can do. Good.
we'll see what we can do if we get it on.
Thanks.
Thank you. You have in your folders, you have the minutes, the approved minutes from the last cycle. Oh, I'm sorry, we got to do the proclamations. Let's do that. There are several tonight. Madam Clerk.
Would Gary Puttup, Carol Mulligan, and Diane Cassidy please come forward? Also, President Jeffrey Adair and Legislator Carla Boyce. Whereas the first week of August is recognized as World Breastfeeding Week, a global initiative to raise awareness of the benefits of breastfeeding and its important and positive long-term effects on the growth and development of infants. And whereas the New York State Department of Health, the American Academy of Pediatrics, and the Surgeon General encourage breastfeeding during the first 6 months of infancy, as it is the best way an infant can obtain the nutritional and emotional resources needed during the first year of life. And whereas mothers benefit from breastfeeding as it not only advances postpartum recovery and return to pre-pregnancy weight, but decreases the risk of ovarian, uterine, and endometrial cancers, as well as anemia, diabetes, and osteoporosis. And whereas breastfeeding promotes overall health, growth, and development, and helps to prevent infections during infancy, as well as asthma, obesity, diabetes, and other chronic illnesses in childhood and later adulthood. And whereas the United States Preventative Service Task Force researched structured breastfeeding education and lactation counseling programs for women and their families before, during, and after the birth of an infant. This results in increased rates of breastfeeding initiation and exclusivity and increased duration of breastfeeding. And whereas Monroe County recognizes that it is vital to make informed choices about the health and care of infants, we support increased efforts by hospital staff, providers, employers, and all residents of Monroe County to encourage breastfeeding, which benefits mothers as well as infants who gain valuable nutrition that advances healthy growth and development. Now, therefore, we, Jeffrey R. Adair, President, and Carla F. Boyce, Legislator District 5, on behalf of the entire Monroe County Legislature, do hereby proclaim the month of August as Breastfeeding Awareness Month in the County of Monroe, and encourage all residents to assist in the efforts to bring awareness to the entire community. Congratulations.
I'd like to thank President Adair and especially Legislator Boyce and everybody else in the county legislature that helped us with this. Just a quick story. This all came about, my wife and I were in Ottawa, Canada last year. And having a particular love for government, and some of us know what that means, so I stopped by the City Hall. And I saw that they had signage for a special room for women to go when they want to breastfeed, whether they're employees of the city or visitors. And I immediately thought, well, you know, why aren't we doing that at home? I got a hold of Diane Clune, who is a lactation consultant, and another friend, Carol Mulligan, who couldn't make it tonight, who's a nurse at a local hospital that teaches women to do this. And we approached then Legislator Boyce. And, you know, some of the things, although at first you wonder why is this going on, you know, many of the employees here, obviously, you know, in the county are women. And this is a really important issue for women. And one of the things we found is there was no place in this county office building for women to breastfeed or to pump. And they would do things, for instance, be told to use a conference room. Or we heard one story where a woman was told, well, she can go into her car in the parking lot and do this. Well, that's just not right. And when we met with Legislator Boyce, she just took the bull by the horns and got this done. Just as an aside, the City Hall in Rochester opened their room up last week, and we really look forward to the day when the county here has their room as a leader in this county to show all the municipalities that this is a good thing that government can show the public, that they should be advocating for this healthy alternative. And you, sir, I hope you were paying attention to this. Thank you.
Would representatives from the Girl Scouts Irondequoit Service Unit please come forward? Also, President Jeffrey R. Adair and legislators Joseph D. Morelli and Dr. Joe Carbone. Whereas the Girl Scouts Irondequoit Service Unit was one of just 6 Girl Scouts units in Monroe County to win the prestigious Girl Scouts of Western New York President's Award. And whereas the award is given to the Girl Scout units who exemplify the Scouts' mission of building girls of courage, confidence, and character, and who make the world a better place. And whereas the Irondequoit unit held many service events this past year throughout their community, including a book drive and a Pick Up the Parks cleanup at Ontario Beach Park. And whereas the Irondequoit unit could not have won the award without the help of the team volunteers, including Julie Brubaker, Bonnie Patterson, and Dr. Jennifer Plunkett, and so many others, and too numerous to mention. Now, therefore, let it be known that we, Jeffrey R. Adair, President, Joseph D. Morelli, Jr., Legislator District 17, and Dr. Joseph Carbone, Legislator District 16, on behalf of the entire Monroe County Legislature, do hereby honor the Girl Scouts Irondequoit Service Unit for winning the Girl Scouts of Western New York President's Award. Congratulations.
I didn't know I was going to have to speak. I'm the president of the Irondequoit Service Units, and I want to thank you, the county, everyone, for being so open to girls in Monroe County. We strive to build girls of courage, confidence, and character who make the world a better place. And everyone from our town supervisor who's here, who's a Girl Scout member too, to Riley, who I think we're going to honor next, who's won a gold award. We try to make the community a better place, and we thank you all for your support and the support of girls.
She's up here already. Skip that part. Whereas Riley Ike won the Girl Scout Gold Award this year as one of only 63 members of her troop, which spans from Buffalo to Rochester, to win the award this year. And whereas the Girl Scout Gold Award is the highest achievement in the Girl Scouts. To win the award, members must identify an issue in their community and come up with a plan to tackle it. Members must then form a team and address the issue and report their progress to a local council. And whereas Riley discovered that many cemetery lands are uncared for, which can cause grass to grow over gravestones, preventing relatives from finding their loved ones' burial spots. To resolve this, Riley and her team cleaned up the grounds at the Irondequoit Cemetery. And whereas Riley exemplifies the Girl Scouts' mission of caring for and solving issues in her community, she has learned the skills necessary to become a caring leader in her community. Therefore, let it be known that we, Jeffrey R. Dare, President, Joseph D. Morelli, Jr., Legislator District 17, and Dr. Joseph Carbone, Legislator District 16, on behalf of the entire Monroe County Legislature, do hereby honor Riley Ike for winning the Girl Scout Gold Award, the highest achievement in the Girl Scouts. Congratulations.
I'd like to thank everyone for allowing me to be here, and especially Julie Brubaker for inviting me herself, setting this up.
Legislators, you have in your folder the approved minutes from the last cycle. There are no formal committee reports scheduled for this evening. We will now hold a public forum where we have several speakers registered to address the legislature. Madam Clerk?
I will call 3 people forward at one time to address the legislature. Each speaker will have 2 minutes in which to provide your remarks, and we ask that you conclude when the timer sounds and exit through the clerk's office. And once again, we thank you for your cooperation. Our first 3 speakers will be Hollis Heinzerling, to be followed by Karen Rakowski, to be followed by Frank Rakowski. Please come forward.
Okay. A legislature is elected to make decisions on behalf of all of the people. Too often, the public good is subverted in favor of private interest, and this appears to be the case with the Monroe County Fair. The good rabbi has spoken about moral obligation today, and I can only hope that his words will be taken to heart. Our legislature is hiding behind a group of young people in 4-H in order to justify misconduct. 4-H is a great group. I know from personal experience. And yes, those 40 children should have a place to exhibit. But what is unclear is how this translates into bulldozing a public park when there are numerous other public sites available. This is a question of propriety and of fairness. The Monroe County Fair is a commercial venture, and it is nearly bankrupt. They expect the taxpayers to save the day. Sure, taxpayers will have access to facilities for other hypothetical events. Go ahead and build 8 buildings, and who do you think is going to come? Are they going to pay the bills? What else does the legislature have in the pipeline for Ogden? Remember, this is a site remote from the population center with huge infrastructure problems. There are all kinds of unanswered questions. Why is the Fair Association deserving of preferential treatment? Why not build a building for the Girl Scouts? They seem like a very good group. Are they less important than 4-H? Why are you destroying a public park for a tractor pull? If Monroe County is so anxious to own a fairgrounds, why did they not buy the Dome Arena where the infrastructure is already in place? Instead, we're selling it to the Sharks, which displaced dozens of events, which served a wide cross-section of the population. It is unlikely that these events will be going to Ogden. Are all of these other groups undeserving? Thank you.
My daughter, aged 33, is a college graduate in childhood education and administration and wanted to have her own business here. Instead, she just left New York. What's going on at Northampton may help explain why young people in private sector jobs leave. The government, with unlimited taxing capability, operating under special connections, and having an advantageous set of rule interpretations, is in competition with them. The county's plan to build party houses and facilities for festival events uses public lands, taxpayer dollars, government workers. Work is done to sketches rather than engineering drawings, and a hasty environmental review with inaccuracies and inconsistencies still got approved. The public is told that town codes and comprehensive plans don't apply in a county park. A nonprofit has been hired to run some of the events, ensuring that any profits generated would not be taxed. And there will be yearly infusions of tax money for more building, more management, maintenance from the taxpayer, although the amounts are hard to come by. If a person such as myself wanted to develop 25 acres of land next to the park to do the same thing, just how would it work? First, there is a review and clearance by the town for code compliance, including public hearings, and then a bank for finance, which means there must be complete architectural drawings, full environmental reviews, approvals, traffic studies, paperwork, insurance. It will be necessary to hire for-profit contractors, workers, and managers, and then pay tax on any profit. There is no option to gift the county $500,000 and have them smooth the process, build the buildings and grounds, maintain them, and then to receive $50,000 a year subsidy to have an event there. It's not exactly a level playing field. How is private business going to compete? The town of Ogden subsidizes 2 government-run preschools and daycare that operate under similar government advantage. My daughter is smart enough to know that when a government is competing with private business, it's a stacked deck. She's in a new state, paying considerably less taxes. She won't be back.
My topic is town codes and county parks. The town of Ogden has a comprehensive plan and zoning codes. We have been told that these documents don't apply to a project in a county park. Allow me to explain why they do apply to commercial development in a county park, such as the proposed Northampton Park Festival site. There is New York state law concerning comprehensive plans and the obligation that they be followed, even by other government agencies. These laws have been upheld in court rulings. The Town of Ogden Comprehensive Plan says on page 45 that the town has expressed an interest in steering large-scale industrial and residential developments to the eastern area of the town, which would allow for the preservation of agricultural and open space land west of Union Street. And on page 20, sanitary sewer capacity will be one of the primary limitations on new development. Development will occur where sanitary sewers are available, primarily in the village and the eastern parts of the town. The future land use map of the town does not indicate any commercial development in the western half of Ogden. Now, the New York State statute on comprehensive planning document found in state law section 272A states the actual law on the topic. This law is explained on page 10 in the state document titled Zoning and the Comprehensive Plan. Quoting from that, once a comprehensive plan is adopted using the state zoning enabling statutes, all land use regulations of the community must be consistent with the plan. In addition, other governmental agencies that are considering capital projects on lands covered by the adopted plan must take the plan into consideration. Government officials' statements that they are not bound by the comprehensive plan and codes of the town and evidence that they were not followed are a direct violation of the applicable New York State statutes and directives. I look forward to the public hearings that will be held concerning the commercial development proposed in the park. Thank you. Frank Rukowski.
Our next 3 speakers will be Janet Connor, to be followed by Janet Steves and Beth Alansikas. Thank you.
I'm here tonight to hopefully educate some of our legislators as to the suitability, or rather the unsuitability, of Northampton Park as a festival site for the Monroe County this year, next year, or any future year. In my opinion, the Natural Resources Conservation Service within the USDA has already laid groundwork which supports this. If Monroe County legislators would please take a little time to go to the website, which is in this handout I gave you, They would be able to identify 40 acres or so in question and see firsthand what is a suitable use for this park. The information available has come from federal agencies, state agencies, including agricultural experiment stations and local participants. Maps, charts, and written explanations offer insight concerning uses of the park for construction of buildings, sanitation, animal pit burial, recreation, farming, roads, and the like. What you need to remember when looking at these maps is if the map is green, then it's suitable for the use in question. Red is bad. Yellow is viewed as an area in which to be considered more marginal, but has some potential. This is yellow and red, okay, and this happens to be picnic areas, okay? Then the next one here is all red, and that's shallow excavations, red, all red. This is Northampton. This is where our fair was this year. And here's another one which has to do with stormwater management infiltration, all red. Others are a combination of some green, but mostly they're yellow and red. So marginal and careful review should take place prior to any soil disturbance. Excuse me. Again, if the map is red, it means not suitable. For shallow excavations, the entire area in question is red. Red is bad. Stormwater management infiltration map is red. Septic tank absorption fields are either red or yellow. Dwellings without basements maps show red and yellow. In addition, thank you.
Please state your name.
My name is Janet Steves, and I live at 1845 Colby Street in Brockport. When I was in junior high, my friends and I started a horse 4-H club. I showed my horse in many of the Madison County 4-H fairs. Our riding ring was a temporary structure on a grassy section of the Morrisville Agricultural College, which was and still is across the street from the Madison County Cooperative Extension office and barn. The temporary ring was identical to the one used in the dressage competition at the Olympic Games. I qualified for and participated numerous times in the New York State Fair. I placed in every event I entered and many times came in first. While at the State Fair, I also participated in the 4-H horse judging competition. Each year, I got better and better. In my last year of eligibility, I made the New York State horse judging team. Every time one of the coaches called me at college to convince me to travel to Virginia Tech for the competition, I told them no. My participation in all of my 4-H activities was to better myself, not the winning. The 4-H motto is to make the best better. I tell you all of this because I did all of this without a bounce house, carnival games or rides, no bands playing, and certainly no beer tent. It is time that we make a choice. Which is more important, to make money with an entrance fee, etc., or the children and youth of Monroe County? As an educator for almost 30 years, I have made my choice. What will your choice be? Thank you.
Our next three speakers will be Lucinda Haig, to be followed by Nathaniel Haig and Sister Grace Miller. Please come forward.
I'm Beth Elisankas, and after visiting this year's agricultural festival, I'm even more convinced that it could and should have been held elsewhere. But the park was destroyed to create a revenue-generating site. That's where this was going all along, wasn't it? Done under the guise of holding a festival for about 50 area 4-H members, of which only half participated. After all, visitors were directed to the Northampton Park Festival site, not the fair. The Fair Association hasn't been able to effectively manage the business that they've been in since 1823. They squandered $3.5 million from the Wegmans land sale and then took out a $2 million loan. They still have that loan, and creditors are still lining up for their money, and we're going to be next, because the county sought out a financial deal with them. Their solution? Sell the dome and create a festival site at Northampton Park. But the public will be outraged. I know, we won't tell them. Then, being the true masters of spin, enter the 4-H'ers. Pull the heartstrings of the community with a parade of kids pining for a scaled-down agricultural event. It's been overlooked that the original dome sales agreement allowed the fair to continue there. And why would they cancel the sale required to fund the fair? Perhaps the new contract excludes that provision. There are no misconceptions here. This is wrong, and I urge you to make it right. Our opposition goes beyond resident inconvenience and decreased property values. This is not about an agricultural fair. It's about ignoring environmental regulations and converting a park to a permanent festival site, a park that's ill-suited for the proposed construction. It's about partnering with a financially irresponsible organization and the lack of a sound fiscal plan for the whole venture. The park, the area environment, and the residents will suffer, and taxpayers are going to pay the bill. Thank you.
I'm Lucinda Haig, and I live at 3400 Rockport Spencerport Road. There's good reason why courts of law insist that people tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Government should be held to the same standards. Truth versus lies is an easy one. We oppose lies and those who tell them. No one likes being lied to. The whole truth is a tougher concept because it is sometimes difficult to determine what questions to ask to get at the whole truth. For example, the county fair. Monroe County Fair and Recreation Association says they're going to put on a small agricultural fair. This is a truth. Anybody against that is supposedly against 4-H, motherhood, apple pie, and flower arrangements. But it was very troubling when it was obvious that the public was not getting the whole truth. Look at the signs, Northampton Festival Site. So how is this festival site to be used? Well, answers from MCFRA and the county, a small agricultural fair, and maybe a few family gatherings and weddings in the future. But that's not the whole truth, is it? The small agricultural fair meant loud concerts and traffic for the wild and farm animals and Ogden resident neighbors, as well as a beer tent, all of which have nothing to do with furthering agriculture. Let's look at the name of the organization running this event. Well, they have Monroe County in their name, but it's a geographic location, not the governing body. Most people wouldn't know that MCFRA is a private business, hired as a contractor by the county for contracting with other commercial ventures. Except for gifts, the money flows one way. Let's look at the statement of no cost to the taxpayer. Who did the work? The towns. You may say the county got money to pay back the towns for hours worked, but just as some of what has been said is not the whole truth, what they're paying is not the whole cost. Was there compensation for benefits, for more wear and tear on the equipment, for security calls and concerns by residents? Who's planning to build 8 buildings? The county. Who's planning to fund the maintenance, management, fencing, and security? The county. Who's going to be paying? The taxpayer. Thank you.
My name is Nathaniel Hagg. What is the point of having laws if they're not followed? A month ago, we came here to point out our concerns about moving the Monroe County Fair to Northampton Park, which the majority of you seem to ignore. We brought up how tractor pulls are very inappropriate and invasive use of parkland. Our concerns were cast aside by your very own Larry Straub when he stated, we're not talking about souped-up, fire-breathing, smoke-emitting, monster-type tractors. We're talking about lawnmowers, farm tractors, and horses. The small-time agricultural fair you tried to feed us was nowhere to be seen on August 2nd and 3rd. The tractors present on these days were no small-time tractors. Many had huge tires, big engines, and loud exhaust. Now that I mention it, doesn't the Monroe County Park System have a noise ordinance? I want to know why this noise ordinance wasn't obeyed during the fair at Northampton Park. Section 323-26 of the Monroe County Park Law states, Unreasonable noise shall be defined as any unusual loud sound which either annoys, disturbs, injures, endangers the health, safety, welfare, peace, quiet, comfort, response, person, which causes injury to plant or animal life, etc. Followed by, non-observance of this section shall be constituted as a violation. These tractor pulls are in violation of the noise ordinance. Why were these unsafe conditions allowed inside Monroe County Park? Why wasn't the law followed that governed the noise? Why were these extremely loud and environmentally destructive machines allowed inside the Monroe County Park, especially when Larry Straub said it wouldn't happen? If I'm not allowed to ride my four-wheeler through the park because it's too destructive, why are you allowed to have a tractor pull? Why should any of us follow the law if it appears that the park department and the legislature is above the park? Thank you.
I was at a funeral today, a funeral for a poor person who was cremated, not buried, because the Republican body and Maggie Brooks cut the funding for burials for the poor. Tomorrow I'm going to another funeral of a poor person who is being cremated instead of buried. Why? Because Republicans refuse to give money to the poor for burials. We have nowhere to turn for money now. The burial fund is depleted. Where do we go to help our poor people who are mourning, who are crying, and want to bury their loved ones instead of cremating them? And you refuse to listen to our pleas and our cries. And it boggles my mind how you can allow this to continue when you know that so many of our poor are hurting. Dorothy Day, the founder of the Catholic Worker, sat upon the death of her friend and confidant, Peter Morin. When Peter Morin was buried in 1949, the undertaker tried to bully us with tales of handles falling off of cheap caskets and inexperienced pallbearers dropping the coffin and the body being spilled out on the church steps. How horrifying. There should be people who will take care of these details of burials so that poor people need not be harassed and exploited at these sorrowful times. The words that stand out here are the harassment and the exploitation of poor people by this county. You try to tell us there is no money, but we know there is money. And when you take money from the poor to give high salaries and choose people that you want to pay salaries for, then you know very well that that is wrong. And it's not the truth, and those are lies. Today, 2013, at the hands of the Republican-controlled body and Maggie Brooks, these words of exploitation of poor people, hurting them at their most sorrowful times. These are horrendous thoughts and actions.
Please summarize.
I'll summarize. Jeff, you and Anthony Danielle, I will remind you again, promised us that you would help us get money for the poor, for their burials. You let us down. I've said this before, and I will keep reminding you because you made promises that you did not keep. You asked me to work with you during Maggie Brooks' campaign, and I did. I was true to my word. You were not true to yours. And I'm going to keep reminding you about this because this was not fair. You all know the words of Scripture. What you do to these, the least of my brethren, you do unto me. I didn't say those words. Jesus said those words. And you hear those words over and over and over again. And somehow they do not register. You simply do not care for the poor of our county.
Our next two speakers will be Christine Delabert and Mrs. Morales.
My name is Christine Delabert. On June 11th, several people came here to voice their concerns with a proposal to move the county fair to Northampton Park. These concerns, as valid as they were and still remain, fell on deaf ears and the proposal passed. Larry Straub, Monroe County Parks Director, told us all the sale was good. However, as of March 28th, months before the vote, the sale with Venmore Sports had gone past its 150 days closing agreement, leaving this sale with the ability to become null and void. We, the legislators and public, were also told that same night that work would not begin and there would be no fair in Northampton Park without the $500,000 from the sale. Still, work began on July 15th. It began without the sale of the fairgrounds, without the $500,000 from the association, without a stormwater protection plan, and without a 5-day waiting period required by law when a notice of intent is filed by any company with the DEC. On July 19th, Charlene Rhee, as president of the Monroe County Fair and Recreation Association, signed a form making the contract and sale of the Dome Arena to Venmore Sports null and void. It was not until July 25th that the public became aware of the fact. The majority of the work to be done this year was finished, leaving the disaster in the park, residents with many questions, and no sale or money in sight. When asked if the public should feel misled, the president of the Fair Association told Lynette Adams, "You'd have to be completely immersed in all the information that they, the association, and the seller have, that there's a lot of private things going on in business that people are not privy to, and that's just business." Well, I'm assuming that the treasurer of that very association would be completely immersed in the sale, as well as privy to those private things. Just so happens he sits on the legislative board. Conveniently, this information was left out of discussion the night of the vote. What the concerned residents of Monroe County were assured would not happen on June 11th did. The original sale is null and void. There is no money, yet the park has been altered, and there was a fair. Contractual, environmental, and moral laws have been broken. Who is going to be held accountable? Who is going to pay for the work already done? Is there even a new sale in place? Can we believe anything Monroe County or the Fair Association has to say? The proposal in question should never have been voted on without the sale. The destruction which the county and Fair Association insist on calling improvements should never have begun without the money. And the venue move should never have taken place under fraudulent arrangements. Thank you.
Good evening. What I have to say is short and to the point. It's concerning the disabled, the handicapped, and young people as myself. And a lot of you in here are getting younger also. The things you used to do, you're not doing again. My thing is about these doors on corporations, banks, credit unions, and a lot of people now have problems with their hands. They're not able to open these heavy doors, and it's tearing their hands up. And I would like to ask you to look into something being done that people can have access to these doors without tearing their hands up. Short, to the point. Thank you.
This concludes the public forum.
At this time, we will recess the August 13, 2013 meeting of the Monroe County Legislature to convene the Pure Waters Administration Board for the Gates, Chili, Ogden Sewer District, Irondequoit Bay South Central Pure Waters, the Northwest Quadrant, and the Rochester Pure Waters District. Will the clerk please note the attendance and read the item on the agenda?
PWAB 1, item number 1, referral 13.
Moved by Legislator Daniele, second by Legislator Yolovich. Is there any discussion at this time? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The item carries. We will now recess the Gates, Chili, Ogden Sewer, Irondequoit Bay South Central, the Northwest Quadrant, and the Rochester Pure Water District, and adjourn the Pure Waters Administration Board. The August 13, 2013 meeting of the Legislature is convened. At this time, we will proceed with the considerations of motions, resolutions, and notes. Will the clerk please read the next item on the agenda?
Item number 1, referral 13-194, providing that resolution.
Moved by Legislator Rocco, second by Legislator McCann. This is a motion to lift from the table. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The item carries. Next item.
Item number 2, referral 13-194, providing that resolution.
Moved by Legislator Rocco, second by Legislator McCann. This is a motion to adopt. Is there any discussion at this time? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The item carries. Next item.
Item number 3, referral 13-205, providing that resolution.
Moved by legislator Valerio, second by legislator Yolovich. This is the motion to lift from the table. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The item carries. Next item.
Item number 4, referral 13-205, providing that resolution.
Moved by legislator Valerio, second by legislator Yolovich. This is the motion to adopt. Is there any discussion at this time? Legislator Haney.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will be voting for the community college budget tonight because of the very important mission that the college fulfills in this community. And we're all very familiar with that. With the continued rapid escalation of tuition costs at private colleges, et cetera, it's becoming harder and harder for families to finance college educations without leaving their children with huge debts. And the college fulfills a very important role. Nonetheless, Mr. President, I continue to remain very concerned about what I view as the lack of reasonable custodianship of the very large amount of cash which the community college possesses. At the end of the college's last fiscal year, which was August 31st of last year, almost a year ago, the college had $57 million in cash. This was up from $54.7 million the year before and has been consistently growing over the last several years. Of the $57 million, $10.6 million was invested in money market accounts at 2 banks, earning 0.2% interest, 20 basis points. The remaining $46.4 million was in checking accounts at one local bank. Well, it's hard to call any of these banks local anymore. At one bank. The reason so much of it was in checking accounts, we've been told, is because the bank is willing to pay the college 75 basis points on the balances in the checking accounts, which the college can then use to offset the cost of banking services. So far, so good. The problem, Mr. President, is that I believe, and I've believed in the past, and I've bored this honorable body with this same commentary now for 4 or 5 years, but I remain nonetheless convinced that with $57 million of cash, and I have to believe that August 31st is one of the low points in the college year for the amount of cash that they have, because within a few days after August 31st, the students return and the tuition money starts to roll in. And that would drive the cash balances higher. I remain very concerned that the college is not maximizing the investment income that it could be earning on this, what I'll call, huge amount of cash. I'm certain that it makes the county's finance director envious to see the community college holding on to $57 million in cash. Now, after much discussion of this, I was encouraged last year, when with much to do, and much press notice thereof, the college proceeded to the adoption of an investment policy, which they adopted, and which had to precede the investment, the actual investment of cash. That was the good news. The bad news, Mr. President, was that they've not implemented that policy and have made no investments. Now, according to this morning's Democrat and Chronicle, the college could, for example, be invested in 10-year Treasury bonds. 10-year Treasury bonds, according to the morning paper, are currently yielding 2.6% interest per year, or 260 basis points compared to the 75 basis points that it's making in its checking accounts. I have to believe, Mr. President, that some portion of that 56 million, and I suspect it's a very sizable portion, could be long-term invested in things like those 10-year U.S. Treasury bonds to earn much higher interest investment income than the college is currently earning. That would then offset the need for continued increased contributions from the county and the need for continued tuition increases. I would fervently hope, Mr. President, that while I recognize the value of the mission of the college and therefore will vote for this budget, I would fervently hope that the college would seriously look at this issue and begin to utilize some significant portion of that very sizable pot of money and invest it at reasonable rates of return for the benefit, A, of the taxpayers of this county, and B, of the students of the college itself. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion at this time? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The item carries. Next item.
Item number 5, referral 13-207, amending Resolution 2.
Moved by legislator Hannah, second by legislator Yolovich. Is there any discussion at this time? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The item carries. Next item.
Item number 6, referral 13-208, accepting grant.
Moved by legislator Hannah, second by legislator Yolovich. Is there any discussion at this time? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The item carries. Next item.
Item number 7, referral 13-209, accepting grant.
Moved by legislator Hannah, second by legislator Yolovich. Is there any discussion at this time? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The item carries. Next item, please.
Item number 8, referral 13-210, authorizing contract with Genesee.
Moved by legislator Hannah, second by legislator Yolovich. Is there any discussion at this time? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The item carries. Next item, please.
Item number 9, referral 13-211, accepting grant from New York State.
Moved by legislator Hannah, second by legislator Yolovich. Is there any discussion at this time? Being none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The item carries. Next item, please.
Item number 10, referral 13-212, amending Resolution 255.
Moved by legislator Hannah, second by legislator Yolovich. Is there any discussion at this time? Legislator Baroff. Thank you very much. Is there any other discussion at this time? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The item carries. Next item, please.
Item number 11, referral 13-213, accepting 3 alternatives.
Moved by legislator Hannah, second by legislator Yolovich. Is there any discussion at this time? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The item carries. Next item, please. Yes.
To make a motion, we move agenda items number 12 through 31.
Being that there's no objections or at this point, I've got a motion and I've got a second. Is there any discussion at this time? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The item carries. I believe. Is there any unfinished business to come before this board tonight? Seeing none.
President, I move this
Trello.
meeting adjourned. Next meeting of the Monroe County Legislature is scheduled for Tuesday, September 10th, 2013 at 6 p.m. Thank you all.